right, y'all, I'm starting this. I don't know what I'm about to talk about. I don't know. I just have been feeling like I need to talk. So if you're new here, welcome to Then They Knew podcast. My name is Taylor, and I don't know what I'm doing. But what I do know is I'm trying to follow Jesus in whatever he wants me to do. I said trying. And yeah, I'm sitting in front of my window because I'm cold. So mind your business. What we're going to talk about today, I have no idea. I guess I'm really just trying to open the door for myself to be able to talk. I don't know what I'm going to talk about today. And I was like, God, I don't really know. God was like, what if you start from the beginning? Ugh, the beginning. I was born in Peoria, Illinois. My birthday is February 9th, 1998, and I'm the oldest of 3. So I have 2 younger brothers, Emmanuel and Alexander, and we do not have the same dad. So I was born in Peoria. My brother Emmanuel was as well. And when I was like, I don't know, maybe 3 or something, we moved here to Harrisonburg, Virginia. And here's where my youngest brother was born, Alexander. And so growing up, I only knew like their dad is my dad. At the time, I didn't know that like he wasn't my dad, obviously. But growing up, I always had this weird feeling that like for some reason I just didn't fit into the family like everybody else did. I just always felt like an outsider, even as a kid. And so I really didn't know why. But when I look back on how I was as a kid, I was always to myself. Like, I tried to have friends. Like, I had like 2 friends that lived across the street from me, but as a kid, I was just so sad as a kid. Oh my gosh. I look back and I just have this memory of like all the other kids like playing at recess. I'm looking out at everyone playing, and I'm sitting by myself at recess reading a book. And I was reading a book about like girls' body parts because at that time I was trying to learn more about my body parts. It's not anything my mom never talked to me really about my body parts. Like I didn't, you know. And so they had books in the library, for children. I was in elementary school. So like for us, geared towards girls to learn about your body parts and, these are your breasts and blah, blah, blah. And during that time, I was actually being molested by my stepdad's dad at the time. So technically, well, not technically, but by marriage, he would have been my grandfather. And so I guess as a kid, that's what made me want to seek out information about my body parts, because my body parts were being mishandled from a young age. I don't know when it started. I know it went on for a while until like I couldn't take it anymore. And I could not take, like, my mom was so mean to me. And she might feel otherwise. I don't know. I don't care. But she was mean. And I couldn't take it anymore. I just remember being in 8th grade and, like, for some reason, I was just always getting in trouble for something. Like, I wasn't even a bad kid. Like, it's not like I was out here running the streets. Like, I wasn't talking crazy. Like, I was just probably a regular kid growing up. I liked music. Of course, like I became interested in boys, but that's only because it's not like I was doing anything. But I didn't lose my virginity until I was almost 18. I was almost 18. And it's only because those things were happening to me as a kid. And he wasn't the only person that had molested me as well. Another person in that family also molested me as well, a female, and within the same daggone household. But I didn't say anything about, my granddad molesting me until I was in 8th grade. And there was just one day where I just could not take it anymore. Like, my mom had gotten home from work. I don't know, it could have been something simple like, why didn't you take the meat out when I told you to take the meat out? And she was just blowing up over it. I don't know what happened. I don't know, like, maybe I didn't clean the kitchen or something. It was just something petty. I just remember it was something petty, and she blew up over it, and I couldn't take it anymore. And so she was like, keep in mind, I'm in 8th grade. So I'm like 14 at this point. Maybe I was 13. But, like, girl, I'm getting older. What the problem is? And I just remember, like, we had a basement and we had like a laundry room in the basement. She like made me go into the basement, and she was like, I don't know if she was gonna hit me with a belt or something. I know that was her goal, was to whoop me. But we go into the room and she's like yelling, and she's like, what has been going on with you? And I'm just kind of like breaking down on the inside, because I'm like, I cannot take this anymore. Like, you're bullying me. I've been going through this. It's too much going on. My dad is not my dad. And I just can't take it. Like, you're always messing with me. You're always picking on me. You're always being mean. And you don't even know what I'm going through. And so, I was just kind of quiet. And she starts asking me, like, did somebody touch you? And I don't remember if I like shook my head yes, or if I was just quiet. Maybe I shook my head yes, I don't know. But then she starts asking me like specific names, like, did this person do it? Did this person do it? Did this person? And I'm like, no, no, no. And she finally got to my granddad. I don't even, like, it's kind of awkward to call him granddad. I'm only calling him that so y'all can keep up with the story. But not biological, just by who she married. And maybe, I don't think I said yes out of my mouth, but I think I shook my head yes. And she went ballistic. Like, I'm just standing there and she's like yelling, she's like running around the basement, she's punching pictures on the wall, like breaking pictures, glasses on the ground. She's running in and out of the house, she's being loud, and I'm just standing there like, okay. And from there, things kind of got hectic. I guess I totally skipped from who I was, and I done skipped all the way to, like, I done skipped a big gap. But it was going on from when I was a kid, and so it just completely warped everything that happening to me. And it's not like it was one time, like, it was multiple times, different places. Just awful. It's just terrible. And so that was actually my first encounter with church, with God, with the Bible, was this person, my granddad, because I don't know, like, I don't know if he considered himself a pastor. I don't know what was going on, but I know, like, he would go preach at a church, and like, he kind of had his own church, but it was kind of, dang, this is kind of crazy, because I feel like I'm like, am I saying too much? But this is the main reason why I didn't want to talk about any of this, because I'm like, is it too many details? But at the same time, it's like, it is what it is, I guess. And so, he ended up having like there's office buildings where we live downtown, and he had an office building there, and we would go there on Sundays and like do church. And so the family would come and we would do church on Sundays. And he would call me, and it's a small room, it's not like it was a big room, it's just like an office room. And he would call me up sometimes, and I just remember, like, reading out of the Bible. I didn't know what I was reading. I could read at this point, but I just remember him like standing behind me and like holding my shoulders, and just like, no one knows what's going on. But at the same time, it makes me wonder if, like, his wife knew about what was going on. Because once I got older and after I had my daughter and I talked with my mom about this, she told me that she knew that other girls were abused and molested just like I was. And I'm like, and nobody said anything? And so as a kid, after I told my mom, I guess she ended up calling the police. I mean, she drove me down to the police station and, she was kind of just asking me, like, do you want to do this? Do you want to tell them what happened to you? And I'm just like, no, I didn't want to tell the police what happened to me because I knew it was going to turn into something bigger. I didn't want anybody at school to know what happened to me. I didn't want it to be in the newspaper. I didn't want to have to go to court for anything. And I remember telling her, like, I didn't want to because of my dad, my stepdad. I didn't want, I don't know, like, why was I trying to protect his feelings? Like, and keep in mind, I was like 13. So it's like, why was I even thinking this way? Like, it even came to the point where I was like trying to pick a drink to have because when I be talking a lot, it makes me thirsty. And so I'm like standing at the fridge and I'm like, what drink do I want? And I originally wanted an aloe drink. I'm like, I want to have an aloe drink. But then I'm like, ooh, like this probably has a lot of sugar in it. Like, what if people are going to judge me and be like, she's drinking that sugary drink? And I'm like, oh, maybe I should pick a different drink. I stood in my fridge and I was like, what drink do I want to drink without caring about what anybody else thinks? And I picked my aloe drink. I'm like, originally I wanted the aloe drink, so that's what I'm going to get. And my water bottle. And so that's what I got. Okay? That's what I brought over here. And so, man, I don't know, man. My life has just been, it's just been a mess. From the beginning, it was a mess. There was never, I don't feel like I ever had a time in my life where I actually had peace. I was always sad. I was always like, all the other kids would be outside playing and I'd be in the house, like listening to music and crying or drawing or writing or playing on the computer, like downloading music to put on my MP3 player or playing like games on the computer. And I don't know, I just always felt so trapped. I just always felt like my mom was just always telling me no. She was always like, no, 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 no. And I get it, in part of like her wanting to protect me and, take care of me. But at that point, like, it didn't matter. Her telling me no, like, you can't go to your friend's house across the street. It's like, I was already being molested. I was already being abused. And like, this person was in our house, like, trying to abuse me at birthday parties. So it's like, what you were trying to prevent by like keeping me under your like grasp, it had already happened. Like my innocence had already been taken away. I don't want to say like my purity in a way, but I had already been tainted by demonic evil things. And so, and so that kind of led into me, I had a memory about something. It led into me, I don't know how this happened. This is a lot. It's putting a lot on Front Street, but I've heard people talk about this, so it's not abnormal. But I don't know how this happened. I don't know how I came across this, but I was the oldest, and so I don't know how this happened, y'all. I don't know. The devil, I don't know. Obviously, God didn't lead me to this stuff. The devil did it. But I just remember one day coming across, like, in our house, this, like, if you remember, like, how you, like, put CDs and kind of, like, those cases, you open it up and it's, like, you put the CDs in there. I came across one of those one day in our house, and it didn't have no good stuff in it. It had pornography in it. And I came across it, and I was interested in it. I'm the oldest, and I had, like, the TV that I had at the time, it did have like a DVD player attached to it. And so I started watching it. And I was in like 6th grade. So I started my period like 6th grade going into 7th grade. And I don't know. So I was introduced, like, I was already introduced to that realm of things from the way beginning. I have no idea when my sexual abuse started. No idea. I have no idea when it started. I just know it was happening. And then in the midst of that, then I come across like the pornography book in like 6th grade. And I would come home from school sometimes and like try to sneak it and watch it. And it was just bad. And so, from there, I don't know, man. It was just a lot. After that, 6th grade summer going into 7th grade, I think is when my mom and my stepdad, I don't know, sometime, somewhere in there, I don't know, they decided that they were going to get married. And I didn't understand why they were getting married. I was like, what's the point? You know, they were always fighting. They were always arguing. Like, cheating was already a thing. Like, it had been a thing. Like, screaming in the middle of the night and all this crazy stuff. And so I didn't understand why they were getting married. And so I just remember, like, going to a family member's house, or maybe it was the house that, like, his dad lived at the time. And you know, a broom being on the ground, I thought it was weird. But a broom being on the ground and then like jumping over the broom, like, I get, you know, people are like, oh, they jumped the broom. But now I'm starting to wonder, is that witchcraft? Now that I think about it, because it do seem a little witchcrafty. And, you know, his dad was into the, like, I cannot say this man was a Christian. He cared more about Africa than anything. Like, Africa was his thing. And so, man, I don't know. Everything was just so twisted and just jacked up. And, you know, they ended up getting married. And I think, like, I don't know, months passed, and I just remember, maybe months passed. I don't remember the exact timeline. But I just remember one day, like, being in the car with my mom, and she asked me if I wanted to change my last name. And at this point, I had already felt like I didn't fit in with the family. 5th grade, I go on a field trip to the Baltimore Aquarium. I don't know what that was. Hopefully my phone doesn't run out of storage. But, you know, I go to the Baltimore Aquarium on a field trip, and I wanted my mom to go as like a chaperone. And so she ended up coming with us. And during the field, like, just leading up to this field trip, I had just felt this heaviness of just like, I don't belong in this family. Something is not right. And of course, like, I knew my mom was my mom, but I was like, is my dad though? And so on this field trip, you know, we go on the field trip, everything's fine. But on the way back, I took the bus up on the field trip with everybody else, the charter bus. But on the way back, I was like, I'm just ride with my mom. There's no point in me taking the bus to school and then getting in the car and then us going home. I'll just ride back with my mom. And so, you know, I get in the car with my mom. We're riding back from Baltimore, and there was like a car accident or something. And so everybody is stuck in traffic for a long time. We're just stuck. And of course, me in my youth, it was like a burden on me where I like had to ask. It was a burden. And so we're driving, we're stuck in traffic. And I decided at this point to ask her, is my dad my dad? She gonna look at me and say no. Ma'am, I'm like 10. So I'm like, we done went a whole decade. You ain't told me nothing. You ain't said nothing. You ain't gave me no heads up, no pointer, no nothing. And so I'm crying. I'm sad. I'm kind of just like, this is the worst field trip ever. I'm like, I left here in innocence. I'm coming back in not innocence. And so, yeah, she just says, like, when we get back to the house, like, I'll show you a picture of them or something. We get to the house. She walks me upstairs into their bedroom, and they had a computer desk at this time, and it had, like, you know, stuff at the top. She gonna go right there where I had spent my time downloading music. Yeah, it was illegal at the time. I was using LimeWire and stuff, but that didn't matter at that time. Playing my games, trying to enjoy my little youth that I thought I had, playing Barbie games, and just enjoying myself. She goes right up to that area, right at the top, and pulls out this little brown book, goes to the back, like a pocket calendar kind of, pulls out this little brown book, goes to the back, pulls out a folded up piece of paper, opens it up, and this is a printed out picture of my dad's like mugshot and maybe some charges he had. I didn't know how to read it. I didn't know. All I saw was the picture. And I was like, wow. And so from there, I don't know, man. And so that was 5th grade. And granted, at this time, I was the first group of kids that year. It was like 2008 to go from 5th grade being in elementary school to 5th grade being in middle school. And so now I'm in middle school for the first time. So I'm going to a new school. Everything is different. Layout's different. I'm learning that my dad is not my dad. I don't know. I'm just feeling like, what the heck is going on? And so 6th grade is when I tried to do like cheerleading, and I was just so insecure with my body. I thought I was fat. Like, I thought I was so big for some reason. I don't know why. But I don't know. I just thought I was. And then I end up like finding the pornography book. And so I started like sneaking some of the things and watching it. And, like at nighttime, like those channels would be on my TV. And so like if I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like flicking through the channels one time, and I remember like stuff like that popping up on the TV and being like intrigued to watch it. And so I would watch it. And so it was just like, as a kid, just a lot of just like sneaking, like a lot of, I just felt like the devil was literally like a snake in my childhood. Like everything was just covered, and the snake was just doing his thing. There's this, when I think back to my childhood, and when it gets into those times, when I look back now, it feels like there was just this like ominous, like, yes, God was there, but the devil was like, he was definitely all up in the mix. Like, this is all demonic, just terrible. It was just awful. Like, I was crying in my bed. I'm like in elementary school. Like, why am I crying in my bed? Like, I've really been through things. Like, I've really endured things. I had not, like, granted, I was being molested, but I just had this burden on me as a kid. I was just so sad. And, I'd be in my room just listening to music, just crying in my bed, as if like I had been like, sometimes like how I cry now, where it's just like, oh, you're just so sad. You're like weeping almost. Why the heck was I as a kid feeling sadness that deeply? And so, 7th grade, I get back to school. Oh, the reason why I changed my last name, my mom asked did I want to do it. I decided I wanted to because I wanted to fit in. That was my reason for it. And so I changed my last name from Messenger to Macklin. And yeah, it was only because I wanted to fit in. I remember thinking like, if I change my last name, I'll feel more like I belong. And that wasn't the case. So I go back to school in 7th grade, and everyone knew me as Taylor Messenger. And so I get back to school in 7th grade, and my teachers are like, Taylor Macklin, and everyone's like, Taylor Macklin, who's that? And yeah, and so 8th grade comes, I kind of like, I get a little boyfriend, but and then I tell my mom what happened, and it's like nothing was technically up here in my life at that point, but let's say it was up here. I feel like after everything was like right here, it just went completely down. Like after that, my mom and dad was like fighting all the time. They were like, they would already fight, but it was different this time. It was different. And so he never actually, I can't say he fully talked to me about what happened to me. I remember one night like being in my room upstairs and him like texting me and say like, come downstairs. And so I come downstairs and he's like laying on the couch because they had been arguing. He was leaving the house, whatever. And I just remember him telling me, like, he was so sad. He was sad. And it's like everyone else had their feelings, but nobody cared about mine, bruh. And part of that, all of that ties into who I have become now, where I feel like what I say doesn't matter. If I talk for too long, I'm talking too much. Nobody's listening anymore. Nobody cares. Like, people are just brushing me off. And so that is why I even struggle to share what I've gone through and what I've been through and what I go through, because I'm like, it doesn't matter. Who cares? And it's trauma. That's not how God feels. And so in me talking about this, I'm trying to get out of that because I can't hold on to this anymore. I held on to it all of last year, fighting God and like pulling with him about it. Like, no, like I'll just hold on to it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to put anybody's business out there. Because when I tell these stories, I feel like I'm mainly telling about other people. I'm not telling about myself, but it's like I was a kid. So it's like, can you blame me that much? And so, he calls me downstairs and he's just like, I talked to my dad about what happened. And, he told me he didn't, but he's my dad and I know when he's lying. And so, like, that was kind of just it. He was crying and I didn't really know what to say. I was just like, it was kind of awkward. I didn't know what to say. He was sad, he was crying, he was upset, but I was just like, And so that conversation happened. I go back upstairs, I go to bed, and life goes on. But eventually, even though I didn't go to the police station, the police ended up coming to our house one day. And it was kind of awkward because, like, the guy that I was dating at the time, his, like, uncle, I think, was one of the police officers that came to our house. And I was like, this is awkward. And so, they're kind of asking me, like, what happened, where it happened, whatever. And I'm telling them. My mom, like my brothers and my stepdad had like went outside to our backyard and they were playing basketball. So then I was able to be inside and like talk to the police about what happened. It was 2 police officers. And yeah, I told them what happened. I didn't know what was going to happen after that. But yeah, nothing really happened after that, actually. I don't know what happened after that. I just remember I get to 9th grade. They came to our house when I was in 8th grade. 9th grade comes. I'm at school minding my business, and I get called to the counselor's office, and I'm like, that's random. What? Huh? Not the principal's office. I get called to the counselor's office, and I'm like, what? And so I get there, and I don't go to my counselor's room. I go into like a different room. Maybe it was like a meeting room or whatever. And there's police in there, and I'm like, I'm at school. What are you doing? Like, everybody's going to know, like I'm talking to the police. What are you guys doing? And so I don't know what happened. Maybe they were asking me more questions. I don't even remember the conversation. I just remember thinking that, what the heck are you guys doing here? And, the conversation eventually ends. I'm like, why are you at my school, bro? This is supposed to be like a hidden thing. My daughter gonna try to come down here in the middle of the video. I'm like, girl, you're supposed to be taking a nap. I can't do nothing. I can't, she don't let me do nothing. I'm like, girl, bye. Go mind your business. And so I don't even remember the conversation because literally all I remember is just thinking, like, what the heck are you doing here? Why are you at my school? Who sent you here? This is embarrassing. Like, I thought this was past. This was over. And now people are going to know what happened to me. And so from there, I just, I don't know, man. high school was a really dark time for me. Um, Eighth grade, I feel like in eighth grade, I started having feelings of like thinking about not wanting to be here anymore. But at the same time, that also was something I had thought about when I was in elementary school. And so I don't remember if I was in like third grade or something, but I remember I was still in elementary school and I had this red notebook and I had written in it like something about how I just didn't want to be alive anymore. Honestly, I don't even, at that time, I didn't even know what that meant. I just knew I didn't want to be alive anymore. And so I remember writing that in a notebook, and maybe I had put it under my bed, under my mattress or something, because I just felt like the reason why I had hidden my notebook is because I felt like I couldn't trust anybody. And so I felt like I had to hide things because I felt like when I would, I don't know, I just felt like my mom didn't really have a attachment to me for some reason. I felt like she was distant. We didn't like how I am with my daughter. I didn't have that with my mom. And if I ever felt like I had a moment with my mom, for some reason it felt disingenuous. And so, I just hid the notebook. And one day, she finally lets me go stay the night at my friend's house. Like, this is our house. If you look out of our door, you could see my friend's house. And so she lets me go stay the night at my friend's house. And the next morning, it's like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. My friend is still asleep, but my friend's mom comes to her room and she's like, Taylor, your mom says you have to come home. And I'm like, I didn't like being at home, bro. It was just like, oh my gosh, go back home. Like, I felt like when I left, like there were limited times where I finally could leave and go to my friend's house. And I finally felt like weight would lift off my shoulders when I would go to my friend's house. And so I'm like, dude, I couldn't even like spend part of the day here. Like I have to go back early and go back home. Like I hated being at home. And so I get my stuff, I walk back across the street, and I go in the house, and I just remember like everything in the house was dark except like the sun was coming in through like the back door that we had at our kitchen, like a sliding glass door. And I smelled cleaning supplies, so I'm like, okay, my mom had been cleaning up. This is just my automatic as soon as I open the door. And it's dark, like I don't see no lights on except for the sun coming through. I smell the cleaning supplies, and I look to my right, and my mom is sitting on the couch, and she has my red notebook. And I'm like, keep in mind, I'm in elementary school. It's not like I was a teenager. It's not like I was even pushing like, 7th grade, 8th grade. I was in elementary school. And so I see she has my red notebook and she opens it up and she's like, why would you write this? And it was about me wanting to like not be alive anymore. And I was like, I don't know. Like, it's just how I felt. Like, I just wrote how I felt. But when she read it, instead of her like embracing me and being like, why do you feel like this? Like, what do you mean you don't want to be here anymore? Like, we love you. Like, I love you. Like, I would be so hurt if anything happened to you. She was aggressive to me about it. Like, she was like, why would you write this? And I'm like, so in that instant, it made me never want to tell her anything ever again. It made me want to hide everything. I didn't want to tell her anything. I didn't want to talk to her about anything. It closed me off. And so that is why I did not say anything until I could not take it anymore, which is kind of the point I'm at now. I'm not speaking because I can't take holding it anymore. I've talked to God about all of these things. I've already talked to him about all this stuff. But it's gotten to the point where he's like, talking to me is not enough. I want you to actually talk about it out loud. And so here I am. And so it closed me off for a long time. I didn't tell anybody what had happened. I, didn't say anything about what was going on with me until I was in 8th grade. But once I got older and eventually like I ended up getting a paper. My mom gave me a paper that came in the mail about like being able to still pursue whatever with this person, and I had like a statute of limitations of, I don't know, 8 years or 7 years or something. I don't remember, but I do remember that statute of limitations ended right before I had my daughter. And so I just remember thinking, like, before I had her, like, I have the decision that I could pursue this or not. And I decided not to. I was already pregnant at the time. I was just like, I don't even feel like putting myself under that duress. And now I'm pregnant. I have a kid. And, I just felt like there was no point. So I didn't. And then the person ended up dying right before I had my daughter, like a couple days before I had my daughter. The person died. I'm sitting in the nail salon. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get my nails done and my toes done, like before my daughter comes, do like a little mom pampering. And I'm sitting in the chair and I see, like, I still had like my cousins on some of my social media. I think it maybe was like Snapchat, and they had posted about him dying. And I'm like, what? And so I had no idea. At this point, I really didn't talk to any of my family, really. I don't know. It was just a mess. And, part of me was kind of happy, like, yes, finally, I don't have to. I felt like it was unfair. I remember one time I was working at Texas Roadhouse, and I go into work and I come out, and my granddad and his wife were at my job. I had never seen them before in my job. I'm like, what the heck are they doing here? And they were at my job. And I was just uncomfortable. I'm like, I don't want to be here. And so I think I maybe texted my mom, or I like texted both of them. And I'm like, this person's here. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. XYZ. I think at that point my mom had taken my car away. So I don't even think, for some reason, I think she took my car. So I'm at work, and this person's in my job, and I don't have my car because she took it for whatever reason. And I texted both of them saying, like, I don't want to be here anymore. I told my managers, like, hey, I have to go. Like, this person's here. Like, I can't do this. Like, I have to go. And so I had texted my mom and my stepdad and said whatever. And my stepdad said he was going to come pick me up. And so he did come get me. And at this point, like, I was already living on my own. I wasn't even living at home. And so I hadn't even lived at home since I was 18. Like, once I was 18, I was like, whatever, I guess I'm considering myself grown, because my mom would always say, like, once you're 18, like, we gonna fight, whatever, we gonna go outside in the front, we gonna fight. And so I just I'd like, you fight me? Fight me? And so, I don't know, she was always just so hostile towards me. I'm like, what did I do to you? But she didn't treat my brothers the same way. And so there was that also put a different dynamic in our house and within our family, of just like, she would tell my stepdad, like, he couldn't be my dad because he's not really my dad, so he don't have no say. She's my only parent. And then my brothers, she didn't treat them the way that she treated me. So then my middle brother, Emmanuel, he felt like he was like the top. He felt like he was like the golden child, and like he was better than me, and like he was always looking down on me, even though I'm the oldest. So I'm like, I paved the way for you, my guy. I went through the hard stuff so you could sit here and be the king of the jungle. But sharing all this, it just seems like drama. But I don't know. I don't even know if I have anything else to say. Once I said something to my mom in 8th grade, and like, everybody knew at this point. I didn't go to any more family functions. I wasn't invited. Like, my brothers would still go. I didn't go. My mom didn't go. They never really liked my mom for whatever reason. Weird stuff happened with her, like when we were younger, and everybody else. And so it was already a weird dynamic in that regard. Everything was already weird with my mom and like my stepdad's family. And so when it came time to like push me to the side, it was easy. It was like, well, that's her kid. Like, that's how I felt. It was like, we're not really related to her anyways. So, And so I didn't go to no more family events. Like, nobody gave me no Christmas gifts. Like, really, nobody called me. I remember one family member, one time they went to something. They went to like a Christmas something or whatever. And my stepdad had like brought me back to the house. They went to like a Christmas something. I don't know, whatever they did. But I remember him bringing me home like um, a box of like lip glosses or something that like my aunt had given me. And the aunt that gave me this was one that molested me too. So I was just like, it was an awkward gift. It was just awkward. And so I don't know, growing up, you know, 8th grade comes, I started thinking about like not wanting to be on earth more. I'm not really sure what words you allowed to use on YouTube or not, but I started thinking about it more. In part is because I had a friend who really, really, really struggled with her mental health. And you know, I struggled with my mental health, but I didn't understand what it was. And so I struggled with it, but you know, I hit it easier. And so it was easier for me to like, just like now, you know, I have all these things that I've been through, and it's easy for me to just keep going through life. For her, it was different. So me and her became friends in 8th grade, and she was just having a really hard time. She was having a really hard time in 8th grade, and I just remember like in part not understanding, but something in my heart was just like, I don't know, like I really, really cared about her as a friend. And, you know, she would talk about how she wanted to kill herself and she didn't want to be here anymore and like cutting herself. And, um, you know, as a kid, you know, if you ever find something out like that, like you should tell an adult. But I didn't know. I thought it was just something that I could help her through. And so, you know, we would always talk about it. We would talk about it. You know, she had issues with her mom, but, you know, my mom was like, you know, I'll just adopt her. And there was always this thing of just like my mom liked everybody more than she liked me. My mom was like, oh, well, she's having a hard time with her mom and her mom shouldn't treat her like that. Like, I'll just take her in. And I just remember like her coming over and like staying with us for a day or two or whatever. And maybe my mom talking to her mom. I don't know. I don't remember. But I just felt like my mom just always tried to be a superhero for everybody else. But when it came time for me, like, it was like, so what? Who cares? And so, and then everyone, all my, like, you know, when people would come over, I would hang out with people. They would be like, your mom's so nice. Your mom's so nice. And make, it's not to make my mom like a villain or anything, but I mean, it's just the reality of the life I was living. I don't have hard feelings against my mom, but I don't understand my mom. You know, I've tried over the years, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Over again, I thought moving out would help our relationship. It didn't. Like, you know, when I would have boyfriends, I thought, you know, maybe that'd make her like me more, because for some reason I noticed that she gravitated and like was nicer to guys more than she was to me. So I felt like, um, you know, having a boyfriend made me more likable. Like, she would say stuff like, you know, I can't wait till you get a husband, or I can't wait till you get a boyfriend so I don't have to buy you stuff for Christmas. And I was just like those things, it just didn't make sense to me. And so, you know, I like got into a long-term relationship when I was in high school, from when I was like 16 all the way up until I was 20. And having this person kind of made like life more bearable. I guess I kind of just skipped from the whole suicide thing, but like my friend was dealing with that. Um, and you know how the devil works, he's crafty. And so she was struggling with it. It's something that I had already thought about as a kid. And so once, you know, I had said something when I was in 8th grade, my friend's going through it, she's struggling with it. It's something, you know, she's going to the hospital for it and is having like all these incidences. And and you know, I'm always there for her like a rock, like, don't do this, like, you know, just talking her through it all the time. And I'm grateful for that. But I can see looking back how the devil tried to use what she was going through to get to me, to try to even get me to think about it or to even try to do something. I thought about it. I would always, I would have a moment of like, maybe I could, I don't know. Like, I never thought, like, what could I do to myself so I couldn't be here anymore? But I just, the bathroom, it was always the bathroom for me. I'm like, maybe I could do it in the bathroom. And the only thing that would even make me think, like, no, don't do that, is I would try to imagine my mom's reaction to finding me. And because I knew that she would be hurt, but in a way I didn't think, I knew she would be hurt about it, but I felt like her hurt wouldn't have been about me being gone. It would just be about like her. It wouldn't be about like, oh my gosh, I love Taylor so much. I felt like her hurt, I just thought about what it would take away like it just, what it would take away from her. It wasn't about the fact that I would be gone. It was the fact that she would be hurt. And so kind of making it about her, and that kind of tied into the whole, me finally telling her like, hey, I'm being molested by this person. And she acted out, but she didn't grab me first. And so if you can kind of understand what I'm trying to say. And that's what keep me from, I didn't really know what to do. I didn't know how to do it. I was just think sometimes like, maybe I could in the bathroom. And then I'll think like, no, I can't do that because like my mom will be hurt. And I felt like that played into me making other decisions as I got older, of just like, I can't go to college far away. I wanted to go to college in Florida. That was the first place I ever wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to college in Florida. I don't know why. I just did. And when it came down to it, to like maybe apply, I was like, no, I can't go to college far away because my mom won't be able to function without me being here. Like, I felt like my mom needed me to function. And so it was just like an internal thing. Even though I felt like she didn't like me, I felt like she needed me to function. And so that's also what I mean by, thinking about committing suicide or whatever as a kid and not doing it because I felt like she needed me to function, so I couldn't leave. And so it tied into me not applying to go places away from Harrisonburg when it came time for me to apply for college. And so I wanted to go to Florida first, and then I was like, no, like it's too far. My mom won't be able to function if I'm not like close by. Like, we don't have the money for it. Even though it was like, girl, none of that even matters. Like, get your FAFSA, apply for student loan. Like, who cares? It doesn't matter. And then I was like, no, that's too far. I can't. And so I thought about, maybe just going to college at Myrtle Beach. And I'm like, ooh, going to the, I just wanted to be at the beach. I just wanted to be by the water. And so I wanted to go to Myrtle Beach. And then I thought about going to Towson. And I thought about going to West Virginia. You see how I scaled it back? And then eventually I was just like, what's the point? There's no point. I'm just going to stay here. Like, the only reason why I had even applied to even go to colleges is because they were helping us do it at school. It's not something my mom talked to me about. She never sat me down and was like, hey, what do you want to do? This is what we can do. Nothing. I only applied to colleges because they helped us do it at school. So I applied to a couple. I applied to JMU. I got into JMU. I did go to JMU for like a semester and a half. And, but I didn't really like it. Once I graduated high school, I got into a pretty bad car accident. Like, pretty much right after I graduated, got into a bad car accident. I flipped 7 times down the highway. Coming back from like a day trip to Busch Gardens, because I love Busch Gardens. And I just remember that morning my mom was being mean to me. It's like she didn't want me to go. But I had told her like, hey, like, we really want to go. Me and like my boyfriend at the time. And so like that was like our plan to like celebrate like graduating and like being seniors, whatever. And she was just mean to me about it. And so, I had gotten up early. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning because, we were going to drive. And this was my first time driving. Like, I had already driven to like Stanton and like Charlottesville, I think, which are like 30, 45 minutes away. But Williamsburg is like 2.5, maybe 3 hours from where we live. And so that was a longer distance away. And so, we had gotten up early and went to the gas station and like got snacks and whatever. And, she was just mean that morning. Like, she didn't say like, all right, like, I love you, like, have fun, send me pictures. Like, that's what I would have done with my own child. Like, call me when you get there or let me know before you guys get on the highway. Just nothing. I just remember like telling her, and she was in the bed and she had an attitude about it. And I'm like, okay. And so I leave, we get on the highway, and like, we're not even on the highway for that long. And this truck is in front of me and it kicks up a little rock and it hits my windshield and it puts like a crack in it. And when that happened, I had this thought go into my mind, like, something bad is going to happen today. I just knew, I didn't know what it was, but I just knew something bad is going to happen today. And so, we get up there, everything's fine. We're having fun, whatever. On the way back, I'm driving, we had stopped. And the only reason why I did not let him drive the rest of the way back is because my mom was just like, don't let anybody drive my car. And so I didn't let him drive the rest of the way back. We like stopped in Charlottesville, 45 minutes away. And, he was tired. And so I like took a break from driving. I took a break, got out, walked a little bit, whatever. And he was like, I'm going to just sleep the rest of the way back. And I was just like, okay. And granted, we're 18 at this point. And so, I get back in the car, we start riding back, and we're like 15 minutes away. We're not even that far from Harrisonburg at this point. And I feel like I fell asleep for a second. And my car hit the little bumps on the side of the road. Everything's fine. Like, I'm driving. But my car hit the little bumps on the side of the road that tell you, like, hey, this is the edge on the highway. And I hit that. And when he heard me hit that, he, like, sprung up out of his seat and, like, tried to grab the steering wheel. But when he tried to grab the steering wheel, I realized he doesn't even have his daggone seatbelt on. And so I, like, grabbed him back and I pushed him back in his seat because it was leaning all the way back. And I'm holding him because when I hit the thing, my car started like going crazy. And so it hit it and I kind of went into the grass. And when I tried to come back onto the road, my car literally zoomed across the highway. We were in the left lane. And as we're coming like back on, my car's like sideways. And I see through his mirror a huge 18-wheeler coming towards the car. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I'm holding him, I'm driving. And all I can think is like, just turn back left. And so I just turned the car back, and there's the median, and in the median was a huge hill. And so we literally just smack right into it and flip. And once the car stops and I like wake up, my arm is still over like this. I look over, my entire roof of my car is on my arm. So I look over, I don't even see him anymore. I don't even see the guy that I was dating I don't even see him. So I'm like, oh my gosh. And like the airbags had come out, so it felt like there was like smoke in the car. I thought the car was going to catch on fire. And so I'm like calling his name and I'm like, wake up, wake up, wake up. And what they think happened was like, because he was already asleep and he like woke up out of his sleep, he was asleep, he like woke up, and once we hit on the impact, it knocked him back out again. And so he did not remember anything. Like, he didn't know what happened. I remembered everything. And the police were trying to ask me like, were you drinking? Were you smoking? I'm like, no, like, I don't even do that stuff. And, I'm like, I even remember the song. I was telling them, like, I even remember the song I was listening to before anything happened. And so, yeah, the car accident. And so after the car accident, I had a severe concussion and I was having like these bad back spasms where my back was hurting so bad. And so was wearing like a back brace and I had a really bad concussion. And so I was like going to like the doctor for it. And I tried to do physical therapy, but it was just uncomfortable and I didn't like it. And so I stopped. And, my mom was really mean to me. Even after the car accident, she was still mean. Like, she cared more about the fact that I could have killed somebody else's child than the fact that, like, her own child could have died. Like, after it, I had a huge knot on my forehead. And I remember, like, walking into the hospital and my stepdad being like, what's on your head? And I'm like, and it was from me smacking my head on the steering wheel once we hit the median. And so, and I had, like, airbag burns on my arms. They weren't horrible. It's not like it was terrible third-degree burns, but I did have them. And I just remember one day, like, both of us going to, like, see the same doctor or whatever. And I think my mom took us. I don't remember. But I just remember she was just being, like, mean to me and, like, snippy. And it's like, it was, like, my boyfriend. But for some reason, she would try to get my boyfriends to not like me or to, like, joke about me or to try to, like, join in on her jokes with me. And so I just didn't like it. And so that day I was a little bit more snippy and I was just like, I'm not doing this with you. And so we're getting there, like, she had already started and I just wasn't in the mood. Like, it having the concussion did kind of change my mood to the point where I was just like, I don't care. Like, you're gonna yell at me anyways, you're gonna be rude anyways, what does it matter? And so, we leave the appointment, we get back in the car, she's back on the same stuff, I'm still not in the mood, like, it was just irritating. And so we get back to my house and she's like yelling and screaming at me and it just wasn't fair. I just felt like it wasn't fair. And, I just spent a lot of time at the house. Like, I really couldn't do anything. I didn't have a car at this point. And, I don't know, man. She was just mean. It was just irritating. I just wanted to get out so bad. And so I spent like a couple months literally just in my house, like just in my bed, just hurting so bad, like seeing all these things replay from the car accident. And like, I felt like after the car accident, I started having these like spiritual encounters for some reason where I had like gotten taken back through the car accident, but instead I saw like his dead grandma and my dead grandma, like, I don't know, just being there at the scene of like the accident. And obviously, like, those were not, they wasn't no angels, but everything just seemed like kind of, it was demonic. You look back now, I'm like, it was demonic, but yeah, it just, I don't know, man. I don't know. And so the car accident happened. I had already applied to JMU at this point. And, I got into JMU. So did all my other friends that I had graduated high school with, except I was not starting that semester. I tried to start that same semester. You graduate high school, you start college after the summer. I tried. I went to like the JMU orientation and it was just too much. Like, we're in this auditorium or whatever type thing. And, it's just loud and like everyone's running and it was just overwhelming to the point where like it made me want to cry. And so my mom had come with me. Obviously, I didn't have a car. I guess parents came during that day and it was just too much. I was just overwhelmed. I couldn't take it. And so we ended up leaving and I was just like, I can't start school right now. And so instead of starting school, I started feeling like I was a burden. And so when I would go talk to like the concussion doctor or whatever, eventually they were just like, if you want to start working again, like you can, because like I was just sitting at home, like I was not doing anything. And so I didn't want my mom to feel like I was a lazy bum. Like now I'm not going to college, like now I'm just sitting at home doing nothing. It wasn't my plan. And so I was like, I'll just get a job. And so I got a job at like a telemarketing place. And at this point, like my boyfriend and like his family would come to our house to like visit me. And I just remember like one of the times his mom and like his sisters coming over, and his mom just being like, you need to get out of this house. Like you should just like come to our house sometime. And I was like, I need to, for like my own sanity. That's what I like. Of course it's like, oh, I get to go to my boyfriend's house. But really she was just like, you need to come to our house sometime. Like you need to get out of this house. Like I was in the house for months. Like we graduated high school in like June. By the time she said this to me, it was like October or something. And so eventually I ended up going over there, and pretty much once I got over there, I ain't go back home. Like I may have sometimes like go get clothes or like stay a couple days, but I didn't want to go back home. It's like I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel cared for. I didn't feel needed. So I'm like, what do I need to be here for? And my mom would still fight me. She would turn off my phone. She would like force me to come home. Like I was pretty much living there. I had like baskets of clothes. She like, I don't know, was like antagonizing me one morning and like came over to their house and was like taking my stuff out of the house. She's like, you need to come back home, blah, blah, blah. And it was just too much, man. It was just too much. And so, I go back home with her, and it was just always this back and forth, and I never understood why. I just wanted her to leave me alone. I'm like, just leave me alone. Like, you don't even like me for real. Like, you're going to try to fight me to make me go back home, to kick me out. Like, she would kick me out. Like, I remember one day she like kicked me out of the house. I didn't have my car. As I'm leaving the house, we had like steps going down and a tree in front of our house, and I was like walking like over that tree, because I had told one of my friends what was going on, and I'm like, can you please come pick me up? I didn't have my car, and I don't think my boyfriend had a car at the time either, but she was like, yeah, like I'll come get you. And so I like had some slides on, some Nike slides, and it's nighttime. My mom tells me I have to get out of her house. I'm like, okay. And so I like went to my room and like packed a bag, and I would go down the stairs, and like I'm upset, obviously. And so I like walk on this, like the tree stump, whatever was hanging out of the ground, and I step on it, and I literally roll my ankle, and it hurts so bad. And so I ended up spraining my ankle. Next day I go to my mom's job because she was working at a medical office, and I go there, and she's kind of just like, acting all nice. And I'm like, part of the reason why I have a sprained ankle is because of you. Like, if I would have stayed in the house, I wouldn't be having to deal with this. And so, what did they give me? Did they give me crutches? I think they gave me crutches because I wasn't wearing a boot or anything. And so then I had crutches, and I forgot that even happened, but everything was just a mess. And so, I'm still living with my boyfriend at the time, whatever. And, 18, 19, we get to like 20 years old, and it was just like, by the time we were 19, I just remember telling him, like, I'm pretty sure, like, I'm not gonna be able to do this with you for like one more year. And I think we broke up like 9 or 10 months later. I don't know, I just felt like it wasn't fitting anymore. And so I was just like, I don't think I would be able to do this with you like that much longer. And so we ended up breaking up the next year.